Welcome back. We're going to take you live now to Edmonton. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney is addressing UCP members as his leadership review begins. Let's take a listen into the Premier.
In what historians have called the battle that forged Canada, Albertans like John George Pattison. He worked for the Calgary Gas Company before enlisting for King and Country, going on to win the Victoria Cross at Vimy Ridge 105 years ago today, the highest possible award for valor. Private Pattison single-handedly charged across the battlefield at exactly the place where the Vimy Monument stands today, taking out an enemy machine gun position, quotes, with utter disregard of his own safety, in the words of his citation. While he lies in a foreign battlefield, Jasper Park's Mount Pattison forever remembers his name. The story of John Pattison is the story of an ordinary Albertan doing extraordinary things, of struggling to overcome adversity. And that is a story as old as this place that we call home. Like the Indigenous people who were the first to build communities here, harvesting nature's resources, from the Ini, the buffalo of the Blackfoot, to the epimi, or bitumen of the Cree, which they used to seal the canoes that plied the waters of the great Northwest. To the pioneers, who through the sweat of their brow created one of the world's greatest bread baskets, and to generations of newcomers who have followed in their footsteps to build this land of opportunity. Friends, all of them overcame adversity, just as we, in our own time, over several years of economic challenge, and especially during the last 2 tough years. But just like those who went before us, we pulled together, and we have shown that we are Alberta strong. Because through thick and thin, we never gave up on our natural optimism, our belief in the promise of Alberta. And now, as we emerge from a dark time into the bright sunlight of an Alberta spring, we can say together, with great confidence, that Alberta is back. Friends, I want to talk to you today a bit about our past as Alberta Conservatives, because we must learn from the lessons of the past to avoid repeating its mistakes. But more importantly, I'll talk to you about our future, about how we'll finish the job that Albertans gave us, and how we'll unite our movement, how we'll win a second historic Conservative majority government to move this province forward into a new era of prosperity. But first, a brief trip down memory lane, if you will. Our province and movement were fortunate to be led for 14 years by one of Canada's greatest premiers ever, a man with endless common sense, deep political courage, and a twinkle in his eye, the late, great Ralph Klein. Ralph did what they said was impossible. He slayed a huge deficit in 3 years. He eliminated Alberta's debt. He brought in the Alberta Advantage. He led Canada in economic growth and won 4 majority Conservative governments. But then, in 2005, he went to a Conservative leadership review vote and was more or less kicked to the curb. Now that set off a decade of division amongst us, cycling through 4 PC leaders and ending up with 2 Conservative parties fighting a bitter civil war. Floor crossings, rancor, intrigue, all of it told Albertans that we were more concerned about settling internal scores than getting our act together and doing the people's business. Now that, plus the vote split that we created, handed government to left-wing ideologues who want to turn Alberta into some kind of socialist lab experiment. And what a failed experiment it was. They raised taxes on everything that moved. They conspired with Justin Trudeau to kill pipelines and hammer oil and gas. They tried to unionize the family farm. They brought in a law saying that parents could not be trusted. They tried to put their woke left-wing dogma into the school curriculum, and they nearly ruined our province finances. Now, we all know the results. The worst economy in Alberta's modern history. The flight of tens of billions of dollars of investment. record bankruptcies and insolvencies, a jobs crisis with 200,000 unemployed people and many people forced to flee the province in droves. Now, as someone who had spent much of my life working to expand the Conservative movement and fighting the destructive agenda of the left, I could barely believe what I was seeing. After serving in Prime Minister Harper's cabinet and seeing firsthand the importance of Conservative unity, I decided that something had to be done to end the decade of Conservative division that had handed power to the NDP on a platter. Because I knew that if they got a second consecutive term, they would fundamentally change this province forever. And we would lose Alberta as we know it. We would lose this province as a beacon of hope and as Canada's bastion of free enterprise. They would drive their toxic ideas into our schools. They would regulate and unionize everything that moves. They'd crush businesses with their class warfare politics of resentment, and they'd turn Alberta into a vassal state for Justin Trudeau's Ottawa. And friends, that's why I decided to step up with a vision of reuniting our Conservative movement. I did so laying out a 5-point plan to achieve it. Now, you'll remember the usual talking heads said that the whole idea was crazy. It couldn't be done. That I was far too unpopular. You know, exactly the same kind of things that the same people say about me and our government every single day. But folks, I take it as encouragement. You know, never tell an Albertan what cannot be done, because that just encourages us. I crisscrossed every corner of the province for 3 years, for much of that time without a paycheck, working with so many of you as we built together a grassroots army of volunteers determined to put our province ahead of the egos, the resentments, and the division, and to take Alberta back and put it back on track. And friends, we did it. We did it with the support of 95% of our Legacy Party members. We overcame huge odds to create this United Conservative Party, and then we won an historic majority with over 1 million votes for the first time in Alberta history. And here's something more. We did it the hard way. We could have simply run against the NDP's catastrophic record. Lord knows that would have been easy. But instead, we put out 375 positive ideas for Conservative reform in our platform, the most detailed blueprint ever offered to Albertans. Now, doing that was a political risk, but let me tell you why we did it. I didn't spend the last few years of my life working with you all, and day and night, to build this party and elect this government just to tinker at the edges. I have no interest in us simply being government. I'm in this, we're in this, to change government. Because, for me, I am and always have been a movement conservative, a conviction conservative. From my earliest days helping to start the Alberta Taxpayers Association here and the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, to my time in the Harper government, when I made risky decisions to achieve deep and necessary reforms in immigration policy, to my time as Minister of National Defense, where I deployed our military to help modernize a brave Ukrainian army, and where I deployed the RCAF to bomb ISIS in Syria. To my 15 years of relentless work to bring new Canadians into the Conservative fold based on our shared belief about the importance of faith, family, and free enterprise. My vision was for us to lead the way in bold, innovative, conservative policy reform that makes life better for regular people while offering a compelling alternative to the drift towards soft socialism in Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh's Ottawa. I wanted us to have a clear mandate to expand choice in education, to bring private sector innovation to our publicly funded healthcare system, to get spending under control, to bring more powers back to the province so we could get more Alberta and less Ottawa, to deregulate our economy, to cut taxes, and to bring in major reforms to ignite investment, jobs, and growth. And friends, that's exactly what we have done. We hit the ground running in April of 2019, and we came running right out of the gates after that election. On day one, we brought in the Turn Off the Taps legislation, sending a message to other governments in Canada that they would pay a price if they blocked pipelines. And you know what? It worked. The BC government backed off on their opposition to the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. They did. On day two of our government, I flew to Ottawa with our brilliant Energy Minister, Sonia Savage, and we persuaded the Senate to oppose both the No More Pipelines bill and the Trudeau tanker ban. We exceeded my wildest expectations in getting them on side. On day three, I went to Bay Street to tell Canadian business leaders that Alberta was open for business, which began 3 years of relentless work to attract job-creating investment, planting the seeds that are now coming to harvest with new investment announcements every single week. We passed Bill 1, the Carbon Tax Repeal Act, and we kept our word to sue Justin Trudeau over his federal carbon tax. We passed Bill 2, the Open for Business Act, along with the job creation tax cut. We launched the red tape reduction strategy that has resulted in a 25% reduction in job-killing regulation in just 3 years, taking Alberta from an F to an A in the CFIB's red tape report card. As promised, we brought balance back to Alberta labor law, restoring workplace democracy, while allowing union members to stop their union dues from funding political causes that they don't agree with. We repealed the NDP's disastrous Bill 6 attack on farmers and replaced it with the common sense Farm Freedom and Safety Act. We reversed the NDP's attack on parental authority in education, we ended their war on faith-based education, and we passed the Choice in Education Act, recognizing for the first time in Canadian law that parents have a fundamental right to decide how their kids should be educated. And yes, as I promised on this stage at our founding AGM in May of 2018, we did shred the NDP's ideological curriculum rewrite, and we began carefully developing a modernized curriculum that gets back to basics in math and reading with balanced content on our history and institutions, instead of divisive, woke left ideology like critical race theory, cancel culture, and age-inappropriate sex education. We are putting kids back and the authority of parents back in charge of our education system. We walked the talk. This is very important. We walked the talk of reconciliation with the creation of the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, a game changer in helping First Nations move from poverty to prosperity. We took action to protect the vulnerable, passing Clare's Law, launching the action plan to combat human trafficking, and increasing support for police efforts to combat child exploitation. We launched the Fairness for Newcomers Action Plan. This is one of my favorite things, with a law knocking down barriers to the full economic inclusion of immigrants, because we need everybody in Alberta working at their skill level, achieving their God-given potential. We led Canada with our mental health and addiction strategy, adding thousands of new, free, long-term treatment spaces to save lives because we are compassionate Conservatives. We kept our promises to fight for a stronger Alberta by launching the public inquiry into the foreign-funded campaign to landlock our energy. We also challenged the constitutionality of the No More Pipelines law in court. We supported First Nations in their legal challenge of the Trudeau tanker ban. We created an Alberta parole board, appointed an Alberta chief firearms officer, secured critical control over whole areas of our economy, like the regulation of industrial emissions, methane, and northern caribou habitat. And all of these were multi-billion-dollar major wins for Alberta's economy. We also fought successfully to bring billions of Albertans' tax dollars back home here through the well reclamation program, the fiscal stabilization program, irrigation investments, and much more. We appointed the Fair Deal panel, which led to the ongoing work on Albertans potentially controlling our own pensions and policing. Friends, these are just a small number, literally a small number, of the things that we achieved just in our first year in office. Our economy was coming back. Jobs were on the rise. Things were looking up. And then, you know what happened. We got sideswiped. Sideswiped by three historic crises all at once. Crises that, frankly, no one saw coming. The biggest public health crisis in a century, the biggest collapse of the world economy since the Great Depression, and the biggest collapse of energy prices ever. How quickly we forget that we went from $70 a barrel oil to minus $40. I'll never forget the day when Travis Toews came into my office a few weeks after this all started and said, "Premier, I haven't been able to sell an Alberta government bond for several weeks, and if this carries on much longer, we go broke." When he told me that, we were at 16% unemployment. And we were the hardest hit province in Canada by far because of the collapse in energy. We didn't know how long this would last, and we were looking at overflow hospitals and freezer trailers in downtown Milan and Madrid and in Tehran and Wuhan, and we didn't know what was coming for us, how long it would last, how bad it would get. But friends, here's the important thing. For all of that uncertainty, for all of that anxiety, for all of that disruption and loss, we came through these crises together, and we got through it. Now, sadly, let's face it, let's talk about the elephant in the room. COVID has become incredibly divisive in our society, in our province, and yes, in our party. In our province, the NDP sadly saw it as an opportunity for partisan advantage and for division from day one. Most opposition parties across the country saw it as an obligation to unite. They saw it as an opportunity to divide. Rachel Notley, of course, she wanted hard Australian-style lockdowns for most of the past 2 years. If they had been in office, schools, businesses, places of worship would have been locked down for the better part of 2 years. There would have been Quebec-style curfews where they were ticketing homeless people for being outside. There would have been stay-at-home orders, like in Australia, with police ticketing people for leaving their homes. Now, someone has suggested that Ms. Notley should have been helping us to make the decisions by appointing her to Alberta's COVID Cabinet Committee. I say that makes about as much sense as putting me in charge of filling up people's gas tanks at a gas station. Which is to say, it makes no sense at all. Friends, let me tell you, we chose not to go to that extreme or anywhere close to it. Despite all the pressure from the opposition, and let me be blunt, much of the mainstream media relentlessly promoting fear daily, and many in the medical establishment who attacked our government and me personally, supposedly for being responsible for every single COVID fatality in our province. But there's a reason we did not take their advice. It's because the damage, the impact on people's mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial well-being would have been catastrophic and I think irreversible. Now, let's be honest, on the other end of the spectrum, a lot of people said, just let it rip. Their advice was, if you just say freedom and personal responsibility often enough, the problem will go away and you won't be challenged with overflowing hospitals. People said, understandably, I get the question every day from Conservatives, why couldn't you be like Ron DeSantis in Florida? God knows I wish I could have been like that. My freedom-loving, inner Alberta Conservative hated every decision that we had to make over the past 2 years, and I know my colleagues who sat around that fateful table feel exactly the same. But let's speak frankly about this. The United States, states like Florida, have about twice as much hospital capacity compared to Alberta on a per capita basis. They've got a different system. They spend a lot more competition, more redundant capacity. And here's the other part of it. In Florida, for example, they had a death rate 3.5 times higher than ours. Now, I've said this to you before. Maybe, look, freedom is a central value for us, but it is not the only value. Human life also holds great value for us. Our moral obligation to care for the poor and the sick is incredibly important to Albertans. Our obligation as custodians of the publicly funded healthcare system requires that we have a bed there to provide care to people when and where they need it. Now, last September, when we were in the midst of this, we had hoped that it was all over, and we were wrong. We came within a week or two of exceeding the total maximum capacity of our hospitals, which would have forced us to medevac patients out of the province. It would have forced life support to be pulled from patients, others denied care, and the cancellation of about 90% of surgeries. Now, friends, I don't believe Albertans would have accepted those alternatives. I don't believe Albertans would accept taking such an irresponsible approach. There were no easy choices. There were only terribly difficult ones, all of them with negative consequences. And all I ask our Alberta Conservatives to understand is that these difficult decisions were made in the best of faith, with the information in front of us, with only bad options, as we tried to navigate an Alberta approach that avoided the two extremes on the one hand of hard lockdowns and the other of a catastrophe in our hospitals. Did we get everything right? Absolutely not. And much pain and dislocation, much loss has been suffered by many Albertans. And for that, I express my regret. And I ask for your forgiveness if there are decisions that we made which you think were wrong or which offended you. But friends, here's where we are at today. I truly believe that the worst of that is behind us. There will be future waves, but with high levels of immunity, declining severity of the disease, and new treatments, I believe that we can and have gotten and will keep our lives back to normal. There is one key learning coming out of this. There will be others. But we must increase the capacity of our healthcare system. We must get more bang for the taxpayer's buck for our enormous investments in this healthcare system. And yes, we need more and better accountability from Alberta Health Services. And we are implementing our action strategy to do all of that. But here we are, with, we hope and believe, the worst of this behind us. And now we have two choices, two paths in front of us as a party, as a government, as a province. One path is the path of division. The other is the path of unity. We can spend the rest of this term in office, or who knows, the rest of our lives, if people really want to, arguing about COVID, carrying on the debates that we've heard in our families, our workplaces, our places of worship, our local communities, and in this party. We can go into a deeply divisive leadership election later this year, where the principal issue debated will be looking through the rearview mirror and arguing over COVID policy. With incredible division in our party, and let me be blunt, between urban and rural, and likely along legacy party lines, on an issue that passionately divides people. I truly fear that if we choose the path of division, it will drive a wedge right down the middle of our party from which we may never again recover. And there's only one person who wins from that, and her name is Rachel Notley. The other path is the path of unity. The path of unity where we decide to come together and not stare through the rearview mirror, but focus on the windshield as a bright new day of hope and opportunity dawns on this province. Friends, I choose the future. I choose unity. I choose to go forward together. And let's talk about that bright new day that's dawning on Alberta. Last year, we led Canada in economic growth. This year, we are leading Canada in economic growth. In the last 15 months, we've seen the creation of 152,000 net new jobs. We are leading Canada in job creation. Alberta's got its mojo back, and that is why 3 weeks ago, we passed, for the first time in 14 years, a balanced budget for Alberta. Now, some will say that that balanced budget was just because of good commodity prices. Well, folks, it took hard work. It took responsible government. It took a government willing to make some unpopular decisions to get our spending under control if the socialists were still there. At today's oil prices, we would have a $6 billion deficit, an $8 billion deficit 2 years from now, permanent structural deficits, mortgaging our future as we would sink in a sea of red ink, paying more to the bankers and bondholders with less available for public services, all of which would force taxes to go up, and that would get us back into the vicious cycle of the NDP's economic disaster. But we didn't choose that path. We made tough decisions. And again, there's probably everybody in this party who could object to one decision or another about spending restraint. But by saying no to some spending demands, we have been able to say yes to fiscal responsibility, yes to lower taxes, yes to a dynamic economy, yes to paying down our debt. And if we carry on with that kind of common sense conservative discipline, we will also say yes to putting some of these future surpluses aside in our savings account, the Heritage Savings Trust Fund, so it's there for generations to come. But it's not just commodity prices and strong decisions to get spending under control. We are seeing our economic recovery plan, the foundations of our economic recovery strategy that we have continued to build over the last 3 years, even in the midst of 3 once-in-a-century crises. We never downed tools. We kept our nose to the grindstone. You know, our legislature, your caucus, met more than any legislature in Canada through COVID when Trudeau virtually shut down the federal parliament. Our MLAs were exhausted with endless night sittings. Why? Because we continued to do the job that Albertans sent us to do, to deliver on our commitments and to build the policy foundations of this amazing economic recovery. It's not happening by accident. We see incredible diversification happening right across Alberta's economy. Last year was the best year in record for Alberta exports, the second best year ever for manufacturing, the best year ever for our forestry industry. One big company in BC, they shut down 3 mills, they bought 3 here in Alberta. Why? They said because unlike British Columbia, under the NDP, they said Alberta is open for business. Yeah. Despite tough weather and some really challenging times, last year, amazingly, was the best year ever for agricultural revenues, for farm receipts, and we've attracted $850 million of new investment in agri-food processing, creating jobs in rural Alberta, adding value to our great food products and exports, which the world will need now more than ever. Last year was the best year ever for our film and television industry. We've gone from $100 million a year to $1 billion a year. That didn't happen by accident. Our film and television tax credit that we ran on, and our Invest Alberta promotion of Alberta as a great place for the creative industries is what has turned Alberta into Hollywood North. Last year was the best year ever by a country mile for our information technology, digital, high-tech and venture capital sectors. In fact, under this government, we have seen a 500% increase in the number of venture capital deals made and money invested. That's the jet fuel of the startup businesses that are so important for diversification. And we are laying the groundwork to ensure that all Albertans can plug into and benefit from the future digital economy but because we have put forward and leveraged upwards of $1 billion in investment to ensure 98% coverage for high-speed rural broadband internet across the province. Last year was the best year ever in industry after industry, and whole new industries are now taking root in Alberta, again, thanks to your government's visionary policies and the hard work of your team. We have attracted $18 billion of new petrochemical investments, and we're hot on the tail of another $12 billion. We have brought in billions in announced hydrogen projects, and both of these new industries will create long-term demand for natural gas, which means good-paying jobs for upstream exploration production, for midstream pipeliners, for blue-collar service, oilfield service workers across rural Alberta, but also applying our high-tech smarts in green tech and developing low-emitting products that the world needs, increasing our exports and increasing diversification. Friends, did the NDP do any of this? Their idea of diversification was taxing you to subsidize windmills. Our idea of diversification is creating the best overall economic conditions and bringing billions and billions and billions of dollars of private sector job-creating investment that is leading to a boom in Alberta's economy. And we say, oh, I forgot to mention one small industry, oil and gas. You know, Ms. Notley, Mr. Trudeau said move on, abandon the industry, phase it out, and Lord knows they've done everything they could in their policies to make that real. But we never gave up. We always understood, as Alberta Conservatives, that the world needed more responsibly produced Alberta energy, and now, with Vladimir Putin's outrageous acts of aggression, his invasion of Ukraine, his indiscriminate bombardment of civilians, the world sees the truth of what we have always said, that we need to produce, ship, and export more responsible Alberta energy to displace and compete with dictator and conflict oil from Vladimir Putin's Russia and the OPEC dictatorships. And that is why on Monday I'll be welcoming the chairman of the U.S. Senate Energy Committee, Joe Manchin, here to Alberta. I've invited him here. He'll be traveling up to the oil sands, meeting industry leaders in Calgary, and he has invited me to come and appear at the U.S. Senate Energy Committee to discuss with his colleagues a strategy for North American energy security that includes getting a major Canada-U.S. pipeline built, and we will do it. We will do it. And friends, I talked earlier about all the amazing things that we did in our first year in government. We never downed tools. All of this work on our amazing economic recovery, Alberta's economic renewal, great economic renewal. On top of that, we've done so much more. We've continued to build a stronger Alberta. We brought in democratic reforms, recall and initiative and Senate elections. We've, on issue after issue, we are now at a point where we have implemented 88% of the commitments that we ran on in the last election. So let me then talk about the next election. Now, by the way, I would say this. There are three things that we need to do to win in the next election. One is to unite. The second is to get the job done. And the third is to be a disciplined, mainstream Conservative party that acts on the priorities of Albertans. Let me talk about each one of those things. And by the way, I know a thing or two about winning elections because I've won 12, I've never lost one. I'm 12-0. Let me speak about unity. Do you remember I talked about the decade of division in our movement, starting from Ralph Klein's leadership review in 2005? Well, let's cast our minds back to that era. What was it that caused so much division? Well, sometimes I can't even quite remember. But I do know this. Over that decade, what was going on in Alberta? Growth, prosperity, high commodity prices, fiscal surpluses, and the friendliest prime minister that Alberta has ever had in Ottawa, the Right Honourable Stephen Harper. And yet, despite all of those tailwinds, despite managing the good problems of growth, we went through a decade of division. Compare that to where we are now. What have we gone through? Well, first of all, we inherited an $8 billion structural deficit from the socialists that meant we had to make some tough decisions to get our spending under control, and that's not always politically popular. Secondly, we inherited, I would argue, perhaps the worst prime minister this province has ever had in Ottawa, in Justin Trudeau. I don't know why you guys are applauding for him. And we ran on an incredibly detailed plan for change, which required heavy lifting, and then we ran into the 3 once-in-a-century crises. So is it any wonder? Is it any wonder that we've had some internal tensions and, frankly, some internal division? I'm not surprised. But let us learn from the lessons of history lest we repeat them. As I say, if we indulge ourselves in a cycle of recrimination, of internal debate, of division, I fear that we'll never come back from it. And that is exactly what the NDP is hoping for. So, friends, I am here to ask that we unite. I have not been a perfect leader. I've made mistakes. I ask that you not compare me to the Almighty, but to the alternative. I borrowed that line from my former boss, Stephen Harper. Because unity must be the path forward. Now, beginning today, our party will have a universal membership vote on my leadership. And I humbly ask for your support. I know there are decisions that our government has made which have frustrated, I think, all Alberta Conservatives, myself included. But I ask you to look at how we have delivered on our commitments, how we've united this movement, and how we are moving the province forward with optimism. Right now, the credible polls say, even today, we would win a majority Conservative government. And we have 14 months to go, 14 months of leading Canada in economic growth, 14 months of job creation, 14 months to complete the job that Albertans hired us to do, 14 months to get the job done. You know, in 1995, Ralph Klein went to the polls, and he had cut spending by 20%, literally blown up hospitals, reduced public sector salaries by 5%. He did just about everything you could imagine to tick some people off. But you know what? He won a larger majority in that 1995 election. How did that happen? Well, it's very simple. He was able to look Albertans in the eye and say, we did what we said we would do. In the next election, we will be able to look Albertans in the eye and say, we did what we said we would do. We have delivered on our commitments on jobs, the economy, pipelines, and yes, a stronger Alberta. But in that vote that we are to have, let me just say this. Whatever the result, I will fully respect it in all humility. If the members decide that they want to have a leadership election, I will step aside and I will be grateful for the opportunity of service in the best job in Canada as Premier of Alberta. But if the members decide that they want to choose the path of unity and stability, of moving forward to the future rather than arguing over the past, then I believe all of our members will expect every member of our caucus and our team also to respect the decision of the members democratically expressed in this review vote. So, friends, let me just close by saying that there are three things I've learned in my time that I'd like to share with you. One, I've learned through a lot of experience that it's a lot harder to build things up than to tear them down. You know, the socialists, they're experts at tearing things down. We conservatives believe in building things up, in preserving our institutions, in building people up to achieve their potential. And we've built up this party. One thing I learned in the hard work and the heavy lifting of uniting the conservative movement in this province is that it's a lot harder to unite than it is to divide. And unity requires constant effort. It can never be taken for granted. But division is easy. And thirdly, I learned through the bitter experience of COVID that it is a lot harder to lead with wisdom through historic crises than it is to criticize from the sidelines. Anyone can do that. Friends, I truly believe that Albertans want us to build, to unite, and to lead this province into a new era of prosperity and opportunity to build an Alberta for generations to come that is strong and free. God bless you, and God bless Alberta.
All right, so there we go, listening to